again, you're watching Al Jazeera. A reminder of our top story this hour. There's been an outpouring of grief in Qasem Soleimani's birthplace of Kerman, where thousands have marched through the streets. There have been similar scenes around the country. Iran's Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei says that those who killed Qasem Soleimani should await a harsh revenge. Charlotte Bellis has this look now at Qasem Soleimani's life.
Major General Qasem Soleimani was a senior commander of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and the head of its elite Quds force. He graduated to the role 20 years ago and was regarded as the mastermind of Iran's military strategy in the region. He rarely spoke in public, but gave this interview in October, saying Iran's IRCG had expanded Islamic resistance to 500,000 square kilometers, connecting Iran through Iraq and Syria to Lebanon. The Quds Force runs Iran's foreign military and clandestine operations. The US attributed it to campaigns in Iraq, Lebanon, Syria, Germany, Kenya, Bahrain and Turkey. Soleimani delegated Iranian diplomats to meet with US officials after the September 11 attacks, and they briefly worked together against the Taliban, but the relationship soon deteriorated. During the Iraq War, the US said Iran, through the Quds Force and Shia militias, killed more than 600 American service members, 17% of all US deaths in the war. The US and Iran's priorities aligned once more in the fight against ISIL, but didn't evolve past the battlefield. In April last year, the US designated the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps as a terrorist organization.
With this designation, we are sending a clear signal, a clear message to Iran's leaders, including Qasem Soleimani and his band of thugs, that the United States is bringing all pressure to bear to stop the regime's outlaw behavior. We ask that our allies and partners around the world do the same.
But Soleimani had the full support of Iran's government, and he received Iran's highest military award last year. As tensions heightened between the US and Iran, Soleimani continued to support Shia militias, including the Hezbollah brigades, who were targeted in 5 US airstrikes last week after they fired rockets at a US base. He survived many attacks on his life inside Iran and abroad, but it would be in Iraq, where Shia militias trained by his Quds force killed hundreds of Americans, that the US ended his reign, age 62. Charlotte Bellis, Al Jazeera.
Well, Lebanon's foreign ministry has condemned the killing and has asked for the country to be spared from any repercussions. This comes after Lebanon's Hezbollah leader issued a statement vowing to pursue the punishment of those who are behind Soleimani's killing. Hassan Nasrallah said it's the responsibility of all fighters around the world. He said they will work day and night to achieve his goals. Let's bring in Mohammed Jamjoon, our correspondent, who joins us live from Beirut. And Mohammed, tell us more about what Nasrallah had to say.
Well, Nick, Hassan Nasrallah issued a statement several hours ago in which he condemned what happened. He also, let me read you a little bit of the statement. He said, "My condolences to our dear brothers, the officials of the Islamic Republic of Iran, especially the leadership of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard and the great and resisting Iranian people." Mr. Nasrallah went on to say that they will complete the path of Qasem Soleimani and work night and day to achieve his goals, and we will carry his flag in all arenas, fields, and fronts. Now, just a few hours after that statement was released, you got the statement released here in Lebanon from the caretaker foreign minister. This came from the foreign ministry here. It, of course, condemned the killing of Qasem Soleimani. The statement also went on to say that the foreign ministry of Lebanon considers the killing a violation of Iraqi sovereignty and a dangerous escalation against Iran that would increase tensions in the region. Not so much of a surprise that Lebanon's foreign ministry would issue the statement, because the caretaker foreign minister in this country, Gibran Bassil, who's with the Free Patriotic Movement, he is an ally of Hezbollah. So coming on the heels of Hezbollah's statement, again, not really too much of a surprise as he would do so. We have not heard from other political leaders here in Lebanon, which really kind of amplifies the fact that right now Lebanon is at a crossroads, and many people are concerned about what exactly is going to be happening next. Of course, this country has been rocked by over 2.5 months of anti-government demonstrations. There have been people coming out en masse day after day demanding an end to the political elite here. They would like to see a complete overhaul of the political system in Lebanon. And just as they were starting to cling to some hope that perhaps a new government would be formed, this really throws a wrench. This really complicates that, because right now you have a situation where there is a prime minister designate. He is a Sunni, and his name is Qasem Diab. He is backed by Hezbollah. The problem with this configuration is that the political divide here in Lebanon is completely fraught. It always is. It's very divided. So you have this one person who is backed by Hezbollah. Many of the other Sunni politicians in this country, because of that, do not want to support Mr. Diab. So it already has become difficult for him to come up with a list of names that would be acceptable as cabinet members. It has been difficult for him to form a government, even though there are some of the demonstrators here that would like to at least give him the chance to do so. This just complicates it further, because many of the parties that oppose Hezbollah in Lebanon for many months now have wanted them to distance themselves from Iran. That's not something Hezbollah could have done before. It's certainly not something that Hezbollah, an ally of Iran and a group that is backed by Iran, it's certainly not something that they can do now. So at a time when this country is on the verge of bankruptcy, and at a time when people were hopeful that perhaps a new government could be formed, right now everything seems to be in free fall, and nobody knows exactly what's going to happen next. Nick?
That's a picture coming from Beirut. Mohammed Jamjoon, thanks very much indeed. Well, let's bring in Marwan Bashara, who's Al Jazeera's senior political analyst, joins us here in the studio now. Marwan, when Iran talks of a harsh response, what does it mean, and what options does it really have?
You know, the bottom line for me, as far as the future options of Iran, I would categorize them as more of the same, but much more. Meaning, this is going to be Iran going on, doing the same things it's done the last 3 years, the last 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, but more of it. Meaning escalating whatever it was doing, because I think these are its options. Assassinations, counter-assassinations, retaliation, counter-retaliations, covert operations, low-intensity warfare, perhaps at one point, if need be, disruption of trade and the likes. It will be using its assets in the region. And I think those assets are going to have to make up their minds whether they are clients or whether they are independent actors. Hezbollah in Lebanon is going to have to decide whether it is Lebanese or whether it's just an Iranian client. The Houthis in Yemen are going to have to decide whether they have a Houthi cause or they are simply another stone, if you will, in the hands of Iran. This we'll find out in the days to come, depending where the escalations are going to come from what front against the United States. Right, and whatever way you're going to look at it, it's going to become more prickly in some shape or form for the United States. So the next question is, what purpose did this attack serve the Trump administration? Well, I think the Trump administration probably calculated that things are going to the worst anyway. Because it was clear, Nick, from the very beginning, that when the United States embraced sanctions against Iran, walking out of the nuclear agreement and imposing tough sanctions in order to cripple the Iranian economy, that Iranian leaders were not going to sit idly by watching their country fall apart, that they were going to act. How are they going to act? Well, they're not going to exactly impose sanctions on the United States. That's not going to work. And they cannot confront the United States on the battlefield because that won't work either. So the Iranians have, from 2017, been taking on low-intensity warfare and covert operation against the U.S. forces. It started on a number of places in Iraq. It led to the escalation against Saudi Arabia several months ago and the attacks of Aramco, even the attacks of certain installations for the United Arab Emirates. But it also led to skirmishes in Iraq itself, leading up to an attack on the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad. I think it's this point in time when the Trump administration decided, with the fresh images of the attacks on the American diplomatic compound in Benghazi, and before that, the takeover of the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, that this administration is not going to go through the same thing that the Carter administration, for example, went through in 1979, and that it was pushed to a corner in order.
Right, so those are bad optics, as they say, aren't they? And then when you factor in the problems that Trump has domestically, then you have perhaps a fuller picture.
We've been saying that for a while. In fact, I predicted several months ago that as we've seen during the Clinton administration or the Clinton impeachment back in the late 1990s, almost 2 decades ago now, that President Clinton acted against Iraq, against Sudan, in order to divert the attention from the impeachment. Well, clearly with President Trump attacking Iran or assassinating Iranian leader, general, and then posting a big American flag on his Twitter feed, I mean, if that's not, attempt at cheap populism, if you will, nationalism, if you will, in order to divert attention from a legal process going against him now in the Senate, well, I mean, I'm not sure what else it could be. Well, so certainly there is domestic calculation, but there's also something more to it. I think this action against Iran pleases his evangelical constituencies, and as you know, there is a new movement now for evangelicals to Trump, or for Trump. So it's clearly among certain constituency in the United States, this is going to be very popular. Among the Israeli lobby and the Israeli supporters in Washington and the United States, this, of course, is very, very attractive. So I think for a number of constituencies, this is probably a good thing for President Trump. As you said, it remains to be in how much or how big of a blow-up this will lead, and whether this will actually lead to a major escalation against U.S. and its various installations, diplomatic compounds, and so on and so forth. If that happens, then, I'm not sure it's going to be good for Trump.
All right. Okay, Marwan, we'll leave it there. Time will tell as the days and months and possibly years unfold. Thank you.